What if the most powerful medicine you'll ever need is something you've been stepping over your entire life? Not locked behind a pharmacy counter, not hidden in a prescription bottle, but growing quietly along sidewalks, fence lines, abandoned fields, maybe even in your own backyard. Long before hospitals existed, people survived injuries, infections, and disease using plants. Real plants. The same ones soldiers relied on to stop bleeding on battlefields. The same remedies that carried entire civilizations through centuries without pharmacies, pills, or insurance. And here's what almost no one tells you. While we've been trained to reach for the drugstore at the first sign of pain, many of these plants never stopped working. Some are still backed by modern science. Some outperform synthetic drugs in ways that make researchers uncomfortable. And yet, most people couldn't recognize a single one if it was growing at their feet. Today, that changes. In this video, I'm going to show you 20 forgotten medicinal plants that humans trusted for thousands of years. Plants that heal wounds, calm inflammation, fight infection, support the lungs, and restore the body naturally. But don't rush through this list, because near the end, you'll see a plant ancient healers used over 2,000 years ago. One modern science has only recently confirmed can fight antibiotic-resistant bacteria. And the final plant? It was the blueprint for aspirin itself, long before aspirin had a name. Here's the important part. Once you recognize these plants, you can't unsee them. You'll start noticing medicine growing everywhere, ignored, overlooked, and still powerful. So before we begin, do one thing for yourself. Subscribe to this channel. Not for me, for future you. Because every week we uncover knowledge that saves money, builds independence, and puts control of your health back where it belongs. Now let's begin. These are 20 forgotten medicinal plants, ranked from impressive to absolutely unbelievable. Let's start with calendula, or pot marigold. At first glance, calendula looks harmless, almost decorative. Bright orange petals, something you'd expect to see in a flower bed, not a medical kit. And that's exactly why most people ignore it. But long before it was called pot marigold, calendula was something very different. It was battlefield medicine. When soldiers were cut, burned, or wounded, an infection was often a death sentence, calendula was crushed, infused, and applied directly to the skin. Not because it looked nice, because it worked. Calendula has a rare combination of properties that make it almost perfectly suited for wound care. It doesn't just calm inflammation, it actively stimulates tissue regeneration. That means it helps the body rebuild damaged skin faster while reducing redness, swelling, and pain at the same time. Burns, cuts, scrapes, infected wounds. Calendula doesn't fight the body, it supports it. Modern research now confirms what traditional healers already knew. Calendula extracts show strong antimicrobial activity, helping prevent infection without damaging healthy tissue. Unlike harsh antiseptics that slow healing, calendula creates the conditions skin needs to repair itself. And here's what makes it even more unusual. Calendula doesn't just heal on the surface. It improves circulation in damaged areas, delivering oxygen and nutrients exactly where they're needed most. That's why it was used on everything from minor burns to serious battlefield injuries, and why it's still found in medical-grade ointments today. Yet most people walk past it without a second thought. So the next time you see a bright orange flower growing quietly in a garden or along a path, remember this: you're not looking at decoration. You're looking at a living wound healing system. And that's just the beginning. Because the next plant on this list goes even deeper, working where modern medicine often struggles the most. Number 2. Sea buckthorn, a skin enamp, mucous membrane repair. Sea buckthorn doesn't look like medicine. It looks harsh, thorny, almost hostile. A plant built to survive, not to soothe. But inside its bright orange berries is one of the most concentrated healing profiles found in nature. For centuries, sea buckthorn has been used to repair what the body struggles to fix on its own: damaged skin and irritated mucous membranes. Long before creams, steroids, or synthetic balms existed, this plant was applied to burns, wounds, and chronic skin damage, not to mask symptoms, but to restore function. What makes sea buckthorn different is how deep it works. Its oil is one of the rare plant sources that naturally contains omega-7 fatty acids, a compound directly involved in skin regeneration and cellular repair. This isn't cosmetic hydration. Omega-7 helps rebuild the skin structure from the inside out, improving elasticity, reducing inflammation, and accelerating healing. But the real power shows up where modern treatments often fail. Mucous membranes. The lining of the mouth, nose, eyes, lungs, and digestive tract depends on constant moisture and rapid cell turnover. When that lining is damaged, by burns, dryness, inflammation, or disease, healing is slow and uncomfortable. Sea buckthorn oil supports these tissues by restoring moisture balance while protecting cells from oxidative damage. Modern research now confirms what traditional medicine observed for generations. Sea buckthorn promotes wound healing, reduces inflammation, and supports skin repair without suppressing the body's natural response. That's why it's used today for burns, radiation damage, eczema, and chronic dryness, internally and externally. And yet, despite its effectiveness, it remains largely unknown. A thorny plant hiding a gentle solution. Proof that some of the most powerful healing tools don't announce themselves loudly, they simply work. And the next plant on this list? It earned its name for a reason. Number 3. Comfrey. Knitbone. Sprains, bruises, and amp. Joint pain. Comfrey has a reputation, and it earned it the hard way. For centuries, this plant was known by a name that sounds almost unbelievable. Knitbone. Not because it numbs pain, not because it distracts the body, but because it was believed to help broken things come back together. When bones cracked, joints swelled, or deep bruises formed under the skin, comfrey was the plant people reached for. Poultices were wrapped around injuries. Oils were massaged into stiff joints. And again, healers noticed the same result: faster recovery, reduced pain, and stronger tissue. The secret lies in a compound called allantoin. Allantoin stimulates cell regeneration. It tells the body to repair, to rebuild connective tissue, skin, and bone faster than it normally would. That's why comfrey became legendary for sprains, strains, and joint injuries, especially in a time when rest alone wasn't an option. But comfrey doesn't just push healing forward. It also calms inflammation. Swollen joints soften. Bruising fades. Pain decreases, not by shutting down the nervous system, but by supporting actual repair. Modern science now confirms what traditional healers observed through experience. Comfrey extracts promote tissue regeneration and reduce inflammation when used externally, which is where its strength truly lies. And that distinction matters. Comfrey isn't a shortcut. It's not a miracle pill. It's a powerful tool when used correctly, for bruises, sprains, and joint pain that need real healing, not temporary relief. A plant that doesn't just mask damage. It helps the body knit itself back together. And the next plant on this list takes that same idea and applies it to the lungs. Let's move on to the number 4, mullein. Lung congestion and amp. Respiratory health. Mullein is the kind of plant most people walk past without a second glance. Tall, soft, covered in fuzzy leaves. It doesn't look powerful, and that's exactly why it's been underestimated for centuries. But when it comes to the lungs, mullein is one of nature's most reliable allies. Long before inhalers and cough syrups existed, mullein was used whenever breathing became difficult. Congestion, persistent coughs, tight chests, smoke-damaged lungs. Healers turned to this plant not to suppress symptoms, but to help the respiratory system clear itself. Mullein works gently, but deeply. Its leaves contain compounds that act as natural expectorants, meaning they help loosen thick mucus and move it out of the lungs. Instead of forcing a cough, mullein softens congestion, making breathing easier and more efficient over time. At the same time, it soothes irritation. Inflamed airways calm down. Dry, scratchy coughs become productive and then fade. That's why mullein was traditionally used for bronchitis, asthma-like symptoms, and long-lasting respiratory infections, especially when the lungs felt weak, not just sick. Modern herbal research supports this use. Mullein shows anti-inflammatory and mild antimicrobial properties, while protecting the delicate tissues of the respiratory tract. It doesn't overwhelm the lungs. It supports their natural rhythm. And that's the key difference. Mullein doesn't silence the cough reflex. It resolves the reason the cough exists in the first place. A soft plant with a powerful purpose. And the next one on this list? You've probably pulled it out of your yard without realizing it was first aid. Number 5. Plantain weed. Cuts, bites, and amp. First aid. Plantain is everywhere. And that's the problem. It grows in cracks in the sidewalk, along footpaths, in lawns people try endlessly to erase. Most see it as a weed, something to pull out and throw away. But for centuries, plantain was one of the first plants people reached for in an emergency. Because when skin breaks, plantain shows up. Long before bandages and antiseptic sprays, this plant was used as instant first aid. Cuts, scrapes, bee stings, spider bites, splinters. If the skin was damaged, plantain leaves were crushed and applied directly to the wound, and the relief was often immediate. Plantain contains natural compounds that reduce inflammation, draw out toxins, and slow bleeding. It helps calm pain while protecting damaged tissue from infection, all at once. That's why it earned a reputation as a field bandage. You didn't need preparation. You needed presence. Modern studies now support these traditional uses. Plantain shows antimicrobial activity and promotes tissue repair, making it effective for minor wounds and skin irritation. It doesn't burn. It doesn't sting. It supports the body's own healing response. But what makes plantain truly remarkable is how accessible it is. You don't need a garden. You don't need equipment. It grows wherever people walk, quietly waiting to be recognized. So the next time your skin breaks and there's no first aid kit in sight, remember this. Medicine doesn't always come in bottles. Sometimes, it grows at your feet. Plant number 6. Yarrow. Stop bleeding and amp. Wound care. Yarrow is a plant with a battlefield history. Long before hospitals, long before ambulances, when wounds meant real danger, yarrow was the plant people trusted when bleeding had to stop. Fast. Soldiers carried it. Healers memorized it. And entire cultures relied on it when injury struck far from help. Because yarrow does something few plants can do reliably. It helps blood clot. When yarrow leaves were crushed and pressed into a wound, bleeding slowed, sometimes stopped entirely. Not through magic, but through chemistry. The plant contains compounds that encourage clot formation while tightening damaged tissue, helping wounds close more quickly and cleanly. But yarrow doesn't stop there. It also reduces inflammation and supports proper healing, lowering the risk of infection once bleeding is controlled. That made it invaluable on battlefields, during hunts, and in everyday accidents, anywhere blood loss could turn serious. Modern research confirms these effects. Yarrow extracts show hemostatic, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial properties, validating centuries of traditional use. It doesn't just stop bleeding, it helps the wound heal correctly. And there's something important about that. Stopping bleeding is urgent. Healing is essential. Yarrow does both. That's why it remained a trusted plant across continents and generations, not because it was gentle, but because it was dependable when it mattered most. A plant that earned its place through necessity. And the next one on this list was so effective, people simply called it Heal All. Let's move on to the number 7. Self-heal, heal all. Wounds, and amp, sore throat. Some plants earn their names through marketing. Self-heal earned its name through experience. Across different cultures and centuries, people kept reaching for the same small purple-flowered plant whenever the body needed help repairing itself. Wounds that wouldn't close. Infections that lingered. Throats so sore that swallowing became painful. Again and again, this plant proved useful. So useful that it became known simply as Heal All. Self-heal works in 2 critical ways. First, it supports wound repair. Applied externally, it helps calm inflammation, protect damaged tissue, and encourage faster healing. Cuts, scrapes, and minor skin infections were traditionally treated with poultices or washes made from the leaves and flowers. Second, it works internally, especially for the throat. Self-heal has long been used as a gargle or tea for sore throats, mouth inflammation, and swollen lymph tissue. It doesn't numb pain. It reduces the inflammation causing it, while offering mild antimicrobial support that helps the body clear infection naturally. Modern research now supports these traditional uses. Self-heal contains compounds with antiviral, antibacterial, and anti-inflammatory activity. That combination explains why it was trusted for both external wounds and internal irritation, a rare overlap in herbal medicine. Small, unassuming, easy to overlook, yet powerful enough that generations agreed on one thing. If you had this plant nearby, you were rarely without help. And the next plant on this list targets a place where pain and inflammation often begin, deep in the throat and digestive system. Number 8. Agrimony. Throat inflammation and AMP. Digestion. Agrimony is quiet medicine. It doesn't shout. It doesn't promise instant miracles. But for centuries, it was one of the most trusted plants when the body felt irritated from the inside out, especially in the throat and digestive system. In medieval Europe, agrimony was so respected that it appeared in nearly every major herbal text. Healers turned to it when throats were inflamed, voices were strained, or swallowing became uncomfortable. Taken as a warm infusion, agrimony coats and tightens irritated tissues, easing soreness while helping inflammation settle naturally. That same action continues further down. Agrimony has a long history of use for digestion, particularly when the gut feels weak, irritated, or out of balance. It was used for bloating, mild diarrhea, and digestive discomfort not by forcing the system, but by gently restoring tone to the tissues involved. The key lies in its astringent properties. Agrimony contains tannins that help tighten and protect mucous membranes. That makes it useful for soothing inflamed throats and calming digestive irritation at the same time, a connection modern medicine often treats separately. Today, research supports agrimony's anti-inflammatory and antioxidant activity, confirming why it was relied on for both respiratory and digestive complaints. It isn't flashy, it isn't dramatic, but when irritation lingers and the body needs steady support, agrimony quietly does its job. And the next plant on this list has been trusted for centuries whenever coughs refuse to leave, especially in the cold months. Plant number 9 of our list, white horehound. Cough and AMP, bronchitis remedy. White horehound has one of the oldest reputations in respiratory medicine, and one of the strongest. Long before cough syrups came in bottles, horehound was the plant people relied on when coughs turned deep, stubborn, and exhausting. When mucus settled in the chest and breathing became labored, this was the remedy that brought relief. Its power comes from bitterness. White horehound contains compounds that stimulate the body's natural clearing mechanisms. Instead of suppressing a cough, it helps make the cough productive, loosening thick mucus, thinning congestion, and allowing the lungs to clear themselves. That's why it became a trusted treatment for bronchitis, chronic coughs, and lingering respiratory infections. But horehound doesn't just clear the lungs, it also soothes them. Traditional preparations reduced irritation in the bronchial passages, easing the raw, inflamed feeling that makes coughing constant and painful. This dual action, clearing and calming, is why horehound remained a staple remedy across Europe and North America for centuries. Modern research supports these uses. White horehound shows expectorant, anti-inflammatory, and mild antimicrobial effects, confirming what experience already proved. And there's a reason horehound candy became so popular in the past. It wasn't a treat. It was medicine disguised as one. A bitter plant that brought relief where sweetness couldn't. And the next plant on this list was used when sickness went beyond coughs, when fever and flu took hold. Number 10. Boneset. Flu symptoms and AMP. Fever. Boneset was never a casual remedy. This was the plant people reached for when illness took over the entire body. When fevers ran high. When chills shook the bones. When the flu left people exhausted, aching, and unable to rest. Its name alone tells you how it was used, for sickness that felt like it went all the way to the skeleton. Historically, boneset was one of the most trusted plants during flu outbreaks. Taken as a hot infusion, it was used to support the body through fever rather than suppress it. Boneset encouraged sweating, helping the body regulate temperature and release heat naturally. That process mattered. Instead of forcing a fever down, Boneset helped the body move through it, easing muscle aches, reducing congestion, and shortening the overall duration of illness. People reported less pain, better rest, and a faster return of strength. Modern research sheds light on why this worked. Boneset contains compounds with immune-supporting and anti-inflammatory effects. It also helps the body's natural detoxification pathways during acute illness, exactly what's needed during flu and fever. But Boneset was never meant for casual daily use. It was respected, used carefully, reserved for moments when the body was overwhelmed and needed support to reset. A serious plant for serious sickness. And the next one on this list doesn't target the body's temperature, it targets the nervous system itself.